welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. Just before we went on the air, Bob and I were having a good laugh at the memes that are coming out on social media about the Atlanta Falcons free agency moves. I mentioned that I saw a little video of it says a live look at Atlanta shopping in free agency. It had a guy running behind a trash truck, garbage truck, throwing bags of trash in the back of the truck. And then, somebody else, a Tampa Bay fan, said, "We should be the worst team in our division, but because God has a sense of humor, Atlanta exists." So it's just perfect. It really is.
If I learned to throw a ball left-handed, I might end up being in the running for a starting quarterback job with the Atlanta Falcons, who might have just signed Todd Marinovich as we finish that sentence.
Oh, I'll tell you what, if they could dig Kenny Stabler up out of the ground, I think they probably would do him too. There was another meme about that said NFL left-handed quarterbacks, and it showed all the teams in the league and had one. And then it said Atlanta Falcons 2 for some odd reason. I don't know what they're thinking. I really don't know what that was all about, because they got to release Kirk Cousins. And, Miami's dumb enough. They're taking a $99 million hit on their cap. But here's Atlanta. They've got one injury-prone quarterback with two reconstructed knees now. And now they're going to bring in a quarterback. Now, I actually like Tua coming out of college, but, the concussions and just his play in Miami and the way that ended, you had probably one of the brightest offensive coordinated minds in Mike McDaniel, and he couldn't figure out how to make you become a superstar. Mm-hmm. What makes you think Atlanta's going to figure him out? This is an injury-prone version of Jeff George they're bringing in here. Just a bad attitude, doesn't take responsibility kind of thing. And I don't know what it is about it, but it's going to be interesting to see. And we brought back Kaden Elliss from Atlanta, and Kaden had said that if he could, he would love to, retire as Saint. So I'm glad to see him back. But Bob, how would you categorize these? Oh, and this is Bob Rose, everyone. I did not even introduce him. We're just going, as soon as the show starts, just go on, talk about free agency and us laughing at the Falcons. But how would you grade this offseason so far in free agency? Because I expected the Saints to be active. I didn't expect them to do what they've done so far. Not as many moves as they've made so far.
And we were talking a little bit about that off the air too. I did expect them to be aggressive, and we're happy to report that they are so far.
Yeah.
They identify, just like we talked about last year when Kellen Moore was brought on board. And even then, he and the staff got a late start because he couldn't come on until after the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But since Moore and that staff have come on board, the Saints have very decisively identified team needs, whether it's free agency or last year's draft, identified team needs, the type of players that they want to fill them, and have been very aggressive in going after them. And we've seen that so far in free agency. The Saints have arguably the most abysmal guard play in the NFL last year. Boom, they go out and sign David Edwards, who was graded by most as the top guard available.
Absolutely.
Everybody figured that the Saints would go after a running back, whether it was in free agency or the draft. And whether you like the signing of Travis Etienne or you disagree with it, you have to acknowledge the Saints identified the need, the player that they wanted. And I said this tons last year during the draft. All the armchair GMs that think they know everything about free agency or everything about the draft. They identify a favorite player or two. And if my team, and it's not just the Saints, my team doesn't go after them, then they're not serious about winning. I always counter with, you're not the head coach. You're not the ones making the personnel decisions. These guys are. They identified Travis Etienne as the guy they wanted for their offense. They signed him. Tight end. I had tight end on my bingo card, believe it or not. I just had the player wrong. Noah Fant, great bargain. I mean, terrific bargain. He's going to cost next to nothing against the salary cap this year. It's a 2-year deal, but if it doesn't work out, they can move on from him without a heavy cap hit at all next year. And then, defensively, you mentioned Kaden Elliss. You lose a Demario Davis, which stings, both on the field and certainly emotionally. I get that. I didn't want to see Davis go either, but you wasted no time. You lose a Demario Davis, you bring back a Kaden Elliss, a prototypical inside linebacker. Don't care for his athleticism. I mean, the athleticism in that room right now is Stutzman, Werner, Ellis. They ain't going to win many decathlons, that's for sure. No. But I mean, Kaden Elliss has been productive in this league in several different systems. I am confident in his ability to contribute for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, and the other big signing he had, and it sounds silly, but if the things we've been talking about since they let I just forgot his name.
Morstead.
Thomas Morstead. So they let Thomas Morstead go, getting a quality punter in here, and again. None of these contracts are huge contracts that would be something that haunts the Saints. We didn't sign anybody to Jarius Byrd, just a ridiculous contract with a Derek Carr kind of contract where you're kind of stuck with a lot of dead money if you guess wrong on these guys. We got probably one of the best punters in the league last year from the Minnesota Vikings. Somebody who can flip the field, somebody who can directionally punt, somebody who can pin teams inside the 10-yard line. I mean, it's just, it's to me, it's such a positive that they addressed all the needs they needed to address on opening day. That doesn't mean they're finished. It just means they went out there and got the guys. They knew the weaknesses of the team. And they traded our old punter.
Yeah.
Kroeger. They traded him to the Texans and a 7th-round pick for a 6th in 2028. A 7th-round pick from 2028 and a 6th. And I jokingly said, I think the Texans thought it was a gift card to Kroger's, the grocery chain that's popular in Texas. And I also suggested that the GM's 11-year-old kid was the one that made this trade just so he could say 6'7".
Hey, but I mean, something that we always say, and you and I always say, we said it about Trevor Penning last year. Anything you can get for a player who likely isn't going to be on your team is a bonus.
Yes.
The Saints definitely took that philosophy to heart. And another thing to acknowledge about their free agency strategy, they didn't paint themselves into a corner where. We came out of free agency. We still really haven't filled the guard spot. We don't have an answer at linebacker. We don't have an answer at running back, thereby forcing you to reach for players in the draft. They can let the board come to them really for the second straight year. Last year, they let the board come to them because that's what they chose to do. This year, they're in a position where they can let the board fall wherever it falls, out of legitimate choice. Because, like you said, they filled the needs early in free agency instead of waiting and hoping maybe this player will slip through. Maybe if we wait a week, there'll still be a decent guard. No, they saw and they signed.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. I mean, I'm ambivalent on Travis Etienne. I know he wanted to come home. That's the
Hmm.
excuse he gave, and it's probably legit. I mean, you know, uh, he can play in front of his hometown crowd. He has a good chance to start,
Hmm.
which that's always a plus. Um, I'm like you. I wanted them to draft Jeremiah Love. Uh, I don't put that out of the realm of possibility, but to go in what you just said, they don't have to draft him. They're not locked into a running back right now. What instead you could possibly do is, you take the draft approach of best player available. I could make this move. I could trade down for more picks if he's there and somebody wants him and is willing to give up a lot to get him. They have several options they can do. I do want to talk about the guys that we lost. Alonte Taylor left, as did Demario Davis, and Cam Jordan is still out there as a free agent. Um, Emotionally, I know how we feel about Cam and Demario. How big of a hole is it to lose those two, possibly three guys?
Um, first of all, Alonte Taylor wasn't a surprise. I didn't
Yeah,
want to lose him, but you knew that the Saints were going to lose him as soon as it became apparent that they weren't going to reach a deal with him before free agency. You knew somebody was going to overpay for him, and sure enough. He gets 3 years, 60 million with a 42 million guarantee from the Titans. There was no way in hell that the Saints were going to give him anything close to that. He's a third corner and a versatile chess piece for the Saints, a valuable one, but he's
mm-hmm.
not the top corner. That's top corner money right there, and the Saints were never going to pay that.
It's a Paulson and
I,
Debo situation.
right. And you already have Kool-Aid McKinstry and Quincy Riley. And I keep telling people this secondary corner is not a big a need as what people think it is. I still expect them to address it somewhere. But there's a reason why that they re-signed Julian Blackmon. Blackmon can do some of what Taylor did in the slot. And if he can't, you might see them try Sanker out there. So I don't think that that's as big a need as what people think. Wouldn't surprise me to see them sign a cornerback maybe at the latter stages of this week or the beginning of next week. If they don't, I certainly expect them to draft one. Maybe it's in the first round. Again, they have that draft flexibility now.
Yeah.
Unless someone they really, really like is there at pick 8. I can't see corner in the first. I know everybody thinking LSU corner. I can't see that happening. I could see them maybe in day 2. If a guy, a similar situation where a Debo fell to them on day 2, Alonte was still there on day 2. They liked each of the players at the time. If it's a situation like that, Riley was still available early in day 3, something like that. Demario, I'm trying to rule emotion out of this because I think Demario proved that he can still play. I mean, he had, I think he lost a step, but his elite instincts and uncanny anticipation more than made up for that. And he's still a better athlete than what the Saints have with their top 3 linebackers now, Ellis, Stutzman, and Werner. But I mean, you can't begrudge Demario Davis getting the money. I question his judgment going to the Jets.
Well, he's going back where he came from.
This is true. This is true.
And we got the prime Demario Davis. They're getting the guy who is ascending and the guy who is descending.
Right.
The prime year. So that was amazing.
And Cam, I still think that there's a pretty strong possibility that Cam comes back to New Orleans. I do believe that there's interest out there, and Cam is one of those people that almost certainly reached a close. This is my belief. I don't have any sources to this, but reached the agreement behind closed doors with Kellen or Mickey or both of them, or Brandon. Yes, I'm going to. Yeah, if you guys want me back, I'd love to be back, and he said so publicly, and I believe him. I'm going to fish for offers, and that's not just offers monetarily. Cam wants to play, and he believes he still can play after last year's performance. Who's to argue? How are you going to argue that he can't? So I think Cam is going to fish out some offers, compare them to New Orleans, both financially and playing time opportunity. But I do believe that Cam ultimately ends up back in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, the only teams I can see Cam going to, honestly, if they pick a couple, if he picks another team other than the Saints, is someone with Saints connections, like a Detroit or a Chicago with Dennis Allen, and that's really it.
Denver certainly in the mix.
In Denver, yeah, but
you remember how Cam felt about Dennis Allen the final 2 years in New Orleans.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know that I can see Chicago.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I get that. I just think that he feels like maybe he could be a leader on that team and kind of get them over the hump. Maybe if he was in the position of I'm shopping for a ring and feels like Chicago is an up and coming team and he could shop for a ring out there. I don't know. I mean, the Vikings was his dad's old team. I don't see how he would go to the Vikings, but I feel like he's coming back. I feel like somebody, Mark asked what would be the Saints' max dollar amount to bring Cam back to the Saints. 12 million a year.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think that's
12 million, a bunch of incentives built in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree with Brian saying that, hey, they were going to have a leadership hole now that you lost Demario. If you lose Cam too, I mean, I think that's huge. I wanted to look at the defense anyway, but you've now made defensive end, edge, and linebacker, weak side linebacker, or possible inside linebacker, a priority. So the problem I have with I'm looking at Brian's question right now. Why do you believe Downs is a top 10, but Delaney isn't at 8? I think isn't one a corner and the other's a safety. So there's a difference there.
Slightly different roles in the defense, and I think that both are in play. I mean, neither one of us are sitting here saying that neither is in play.
Right.
Matter of fact, we're choosing to speak almost exclusively on free agency. But again, their free agent strategy has opened them up to, okay, we have our running back, we have our guard. Not that they were going to draft a guard at 8 anyway.
No.
So we have our running back. We think we like our receiver room. I do. I don't think that receiver is an absolute necessity at 8. So if a Caleb Downs is there, or if a Sonny Styles is there, or if a cornerback is there, they're all in play right now, and that's what I love about this free agency approach.
Yeah, I think Sonny Styles is more likely a guy they have ranked up a little bit higher on that board if they go with best player available. And you've got Love, Styles, Downs all there. And I don't believe they all three will be there. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I'm just saying, for the sake of this discussion, let's say all three are there at 8. They are definitely going to have them act a certain way. These are the best players at these positions. We have them rated as top 10 players. If I have to do a third ranking based off of need of the best 3, I think Styles right now becomes the need. But I also think that edge rusher is still a need.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can address that in free agency. Even if you bring back Cam, you really need a young edge rusher there.
And I've been saying that too. The Cam is a nice piece to have. Carl Granderson is not the answer. He's a good rotational player, but he's proven you start him and it's going to be not a liability, but it's not going to be a strength. And the sands of the hourglass are running down fast for Cam. I mean, you could, if you want to throw a bag of money at Chase on, who has really only had one good year. He had his breakout year last year. Outside of that, you're taking a chance at edge rusher that you don't necessarily have to take. You can bring back a Cam because you know what you have, and then you can draft one. You can draft a Bailey or a Reuben Bain at 8, or you can wait to see how the board falls to you with your second round choice. So yeah, I've always felt that the Saints were going to get an edge rusher, in the draft, whether or not Cam Jordan was on this team. So I don't think Cam being on this team affects the draft strategy a whole lot.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And Cam's ability to play the run, too, makes a huge difference. I mean, you need to have an edge rusher who can not only rush the passer, but play the run as well. So, and there's some people like, well, let's bring back Trey Hendrickson. And then just before we went on the air, the Baltimore Ravens rejected the trade and sent Max Crosby
mess
back. Yeah, sent Max Crosby back to the Raiders for flunking a physical. So his trade value is just disintegrated. The Raiders were sitting there thinking we had some extra picks, and not anymore. Now you can probably get Max Crosby for a day 3 pick. I mean, it's just not much. Yes, Brian, I agree. And hey, Ann, I was just thinking about you, wondering how you've been doing. You do need a home run player. You need an impact player.
Yeah.
You need a guy who is, and I totally agree with that, Brian. And that's why I said, look, you want to be in a position to have to choose among 3 or 4 impact players that you think can make a difference for this team. And I think this is the funny thing about Saints fans on Twitter. They go and you put your top 10 list out there, and they go, oh, so-and-so won't be there, and so-and-so won't be there, and so-and-so won't be there at 8. And by the time you finish, you've got 15 names that are gone.
None of them are there by 8, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You need a home run player. I think at 8 you can get a home run player because you've made the free agent move so far that you give yourself, as you said, the flexibility to pick at a position that may not be a burning need, but if you get one of those top edge rushers fall to you at 1, if you get, at 8, you have a Love fall to you. You have Styles fall to you. It makes it so much. It makes it so much easier. You get that pick right, and you get the home run player that you're looking for, as opposed to what we've done.
Caleb Downs is the perfect example. I don't think safety is a need. You have Justin Reed, who I didn't think played well last year, but we know what he can do. Sanker played well as a rookie. I've always been a big fan of Blackman. You have a decent safety room, but Caleb Downs, if you believe that he can be a defensive changing player, the type of player that Demario Davis did for the defense when he was signed as a free agent, the type of player to elevate your entire unit. Well, again, you don't have to draft. If Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs are there at 8, you don't have to draft a Love now because you have a Travis Etienne. Maybe you still do. I'm like you. I wouldn't be against that. you bring back Cam, and you have Granderson in the rotation. You have Chase Young on the other side. If Bailey or Bain aren't there at edge rusher, you don't have to reach for somebody. You can kick around the market on day two. Draft flexibility is what, and this is what Sean Payton's teams at the end of his tenure in particular, they did not do very well whatsoever.
No, and that's where I was going with this next comment, was because if you get in a position where I have to take an edge rusher, for example, that's how you end up with the Peyton Turners and Isaiah Foskey's and I'm not going to really see
Davenport.
Marcus Davenport only because you traded two firsts to take it.
Right.
But you're taking those kind of guys instead of letting the board come to you, and then you take the best player available off the board. You make a decision like you have a Ricky Williams on your team, but you draft a Deuce McAllister, and then you are shipping off Ricky Williams the next year in 2001 for 2 first-round picks, so it's that kind of stuff. I mean, I hope they don't take an offensive tackle at 8, Calvin. I think we're pretty much done with taking offensive tackles. Yeah, but Calvin says, what are the odds? And I agree with you, Brian. I mean, even if you take a running, I think you still draft a running back. Love probably is the best player available at 8, because I'm going to say that the top edge rushers, Bain and the kid from Texas Tech, are probably off the board by then. But what are the odds that all 3 edge rushers are gone before 8? I don't know.
Hey, they're decent.
Yeah, because edge rushers are still a hot commodity. You're taking edge rushers early. I think the trade for Max Crosby in large part was because the Ravens are looking at it going, we probably won't get any of those edge rushers where we're drafting. We're going to need to get somebody because they want to make a Super Bowl run. They feel like the time is right for them because that window is closing. Even though they got a new head coach, that window is closing because Lamar Jackson is getting older, more injured. How many more seasons does Travis Henry have left? Derrick Henry. God, I can't believe I'm pulling up these old names. How many years does Derrick Henry have left in the league? Their window is closing. They don't know if Kansas City is going to be in any kind of shape to make a run next year. They probably won't be. Buffalo shows they can't. So, now you're looking at Denver. Maybe is the only threat to you. New England up and coming, but they're also they kind of got exposed in the playoffs and again in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I think those teams are looking at, okay, we're very close to winning it. We've got this small window where we should be able to make that run and win it, kind of like Seattle did. We have to do it now before our players get too old and they can't do it anymore. So, yeah, Calvin, I think of the 3, I think Bain is the one that might make it to 8 of those 3. Reese, Bain, and Bailey. If one of them's going to make it, I think Bain will make it, but I'm not saying he's going to. And that other kid, the other edge rusher opposite Bain at Miami, who had a good postseason.
I love him.
I think he's going to go in the mid-first. I really think he's going to go somewhere in late teens, early 20s. If not sooner, if somebody doesn't trade up to go grab him. But I see him being a popular target right in the middle of the first round. Hannah says, who's responsible for all these free agent moves we made? Mickey Loomis? I think a lot of it is the new voices they have in the room.
Yeah.
I think the head coach, Kellen Moore, has a lot of say in it. But I think getting um, the guy from Atlanta, who was with Cleveland way back, the GM, he was with Cleveland back in the day. I can picture him. I just cannot think of his name. Tom Dimitrov. Tom
Yeah.
Dimitrov.
Yeah.
I think he's having an impact on this. I think our old friend Randy Mueller is having an impact on this. I think I just think it's a combination of new voices in the room who are saying things in a new direction for the defense, a new direction for the franchise in general. That they got the quarterback figured out, or so it seems. We haven't seen a whole 17 game slate out of him, but based on what we've seen, they think they got the quarterback figured out.
Mm-hmm.
So now they can start figuring out the pieces to put around him. And now you're kind of out of that cap hell. You're now in a position where you can start putting the team together to make a run. Yeah, Davenport was great potential that never was. You saw glimpses of it when he could play, but he couldn't play a lot. He was hurt a lot, and little nagging injuries seemed to drag him down. I don't know if Hendrickson will go to the Ravens. It's just I don't know where Trey's market is right now. He's 31 years old. He's a little undersized. And he's been injured now in Cincinnati, so I don't know where he might go. Our luck, he ends up going to Tampa Bay and has a resurgent career or something
Right.
like that. Something terrible. I don't know where he could go. But let's look at the defense. Since we've been talking defense and draft picks and stuff, defensive line. There's if Cam comes back and if Cam doesn't come back. They re-signed Ridgeway. It's a very cheap deal, but they still brought him back. I'm like Calvin. I need a big-ass guy in that middle of the defense. They drafted Brockton last year out of Texas. I liked Alfred Collins better, but that's me because he fits that thing. Trey, I'm sorry. I'm just seeing these comments. Trey wants a $400 million contract. Yeah, people in hell want a glass of ice water.
Right.
Send him to the Raiders. Yeah. I think that's over with, honestly, Brian. They draft Johnny No Name from Bubblegum State University, meaning to draft somebody you never heard of, like the Saints had done before. I think those days are over with. I think that was Sean, and I think that was some of the scouting that Jeff Ireland did, and they wanted to pull something over on somebody, getting a guy that no one's ever heard of, to find that diamond in the rough. I think those.
Yeah, and look, Sean Payton craves being the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And if you hit on a guy, from East Bubblegum State A&M Tech, in the first or second round, oh my God, he's a genius. Nobody saw this coming. So Sean's the smartest guy. And Sean often is the smartest guy in the room, but his ego got in the way of a lot of those type of moves. Or, my God, this team needs a wide receiver. Sean's sitting there. Nope, I can make this offense work because I got Drew Brees, and he makes any receiver look good. Well, but he also would make a good receiver look great. And that's where you swung and missed at the plate. And we can go on. We've rehashed that Sean is a genius, but also an egomaniac thing many, many times.
And the Saints now, and this is what Calvin said. Brockton's more of a 4-3 defender.
Agreed.
Nose tackle, borderline 5 technique tackle.
Which me and Brendan said at the time when they drafted him, we were scratching our heads.
That's why I was like, man, I wish we got Alfred Collins instead.
Yep.
He was already gone. and I was still looking at that big old Kentucky kid that was
Mm-hmm.
still on the board. But the defense is kind of unusual because it's a 3-4 hybrid, and sometimes they have 4 defensive linemen down. Sometimes they just have 2 with the 2 edge rushers and 2 linebackers because you have 5 defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they've got 3 linemen and 1 stand-up defensive end. So it's kind of it's hard for me looking at the board and looking at draft picks to figure out what position am I drafting for. I'm drafting an edge, but is it an edge that's going to stand up every play? Or is it going to be an edge that sometimes puts his hand in the dirt so the other side can stand up? Or, this nose tackle, is it going to be just a space eater in the middle? Or are we going to have 2, 5 technique guys next to each other while you have 2 edge rushers? I don't know. It's hard for me. In my head, I know what I want, but I don't know if that's what the Saints want to do. And it's weird. So how would you grade this defensive line? Where's the holes in it?
The hole is exactly where you and I have said since last draft that it was. And I agree with you. I have a hard time not only evaluating the players on the roster, but analyzing. And as you all know, I drive myself sleepless with draft analysis. So I mean, those pieces will be coming out really, really soon. But even though Brandon Staley likes to play chess with that entire front 7, you already have your 5. If you're going to list the Saints depth chart, it is listed as a 3-4 scheme. And Chase Young, Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, they're your stand-up rushers. Brian Bresee, Nathan Shepard, they're listed as your 3-4 defensive ends. But as you said, a Cam, a Granderson, sometimes a Chase would put their hand in the dirt, thereby moving either a Shepard or a Bresee inside, per se, over the guard. But with all that, you are still missing that big, giant, fat ass run stuffer.
Yeah.
Ridgeway was the closest one on the roster, and I'm including Brockton in this. Ridgeway and Godshaw were the closest ones on the roster. Godshaw, I thought, had a poor season. Ridgeway, you didn't see enough of because he was hurt most of it, but they liked him enough to re-sign him. No matter how you cut it, though, the defensive tackle / nose tackle spot, it's a rotational spot. It is always been with every defense that's used one. So I do still think it's a legitimate need for this team. It's not going to be filled in day 1, probably even day 2 of the draft. If it is, it would be late in day 2. So what free agents left could fill it. Sebastian Joseph Day fills that profile really, really well. Tier Tart also fills that physical profile really, really well. Both of them have been a more traditional nose tackle in a 3-4 or at least a hybrid 3-4 front. Jordan Phillips, who has played a nose tackle in Brandon Staley's defense, is still out there. Now, all these guys are up there. Well, Tart's 29. Joseph Day is 31. Jordan Phillips is 35. But don't get hung up on age because, again, this is a rotational spot, a situational spot. Yeah, these are the type of guys you would use on base downs against a run-heavy team, and most certainly goal line, short yardage situations. So 10, 12, 15 snaps a game tops. All those guys I just mentioned, Tart, Joseph Day, Phillips, they're all still available. If you want a big name, Devontae Wyatt from the Packers, I don't think he's been signed yet. But you kind of have a guy like that in Bresee already. Shepard is similar to that. So again, that's not the Tony Saragusa, type of fat ass in the middle.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Is that your dog barking or is that my daughter's dog?
That's not mine.
Okay, that's my daughter's dog. I've got we're babysitting Ollie, and man, he's not used to being here. I mean, he is, but he isn't. So little noises get his attention, and he just goes nuts when he hears it. So if you're hearing a dog barking, that's him. Um, yeah, it's hard because I still feel like you got to draft that nose tackle. So I'm looking at guys like, and where do you draft them? But I'm looking at guys like Caden McDonald from Ohio State. That's a prototypical. His arms are a little shorter than you probably like, but again, rotational guy. You're really using him for running downs. You want him to clog up that middle, push the pocket a little bit, ragdoll some guards, that kind of stuff. But where do you take him? I mean, do you think that he would last to the second or third round? Is somebody going to grab him early? I don't know. I mean, it just depends on how people have a guy like that ranked on their board and how many of them need a guy like that. So I'm kind of ambivalent on drafting. I mean, not drafting by signing a free agent defensive tackle, because I think we got a whole bunch of those kind of guys on our team already. I mean, Nathan Shepard, Godshaw, Ridgeway. You might find a guy who's a little bit faster, a little more athletic than what we have. But, I mean, to me, you clearly need an upgrade next to him. Now, my question is, Bryan Bresee, the Saints have to make a decision whether they're going to pick up that fifth-year option this year. And I think it's May 1st. It might be sooner than that. They have
beginning of May. I don't know the exact date.
Yeah.
But it is, you're right, it is the beginning of May.
Yeah, they got to make that decision on whether they're going to pick up that fifth-year option. I personally think they will. Just because you need a young guy in there. He has played well enough that I think it's justified picking up that fifth-year option. I don't think he's a problem. I think he doesn't make enough impact plays. He's another almost guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I watch him, three guys are on him because they don't fear the other guy, the other defensive tackle next to him. So, I hate making this comparison, but I'm going to. When you put Norman Hand next to Leroy Glover became a hell of a lot more of a problem for defenses. I'm not saying that Bresee is anywhere close to Leroy Glover's kind of play. And it's not even the same kind of scheme. But I just feel like if they had somebody who just took on the double teams and let Bresee have more one-on-one matchups, he will win most of those one-on-one matchups.
Yes.
And maybe those almost plays become plays. And I feel like you, Calvin. I just think that McDonald is country strong. I just want two players in the second round. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's just like last year. I feel like the best round to have multiple picks is the second and third round for the draft, because I think that's where you can start loading up on really good quality players. So is part of me that would like to trade down from 8. That's when you really know we've got new people in charge. They do a trade down. But part of me feels like if I could trade down from 8 to, say, 11 or 12, where I can still get one of the top players, but maybe pick up an extra second-round pick, then we're looking at, I get my receiver at 42 and pick up our defensive tackle in the bottom of the second round, like a McDonald. And, I mean, that would be great. Okay, so linebackers now. I mean, we talked about edge rushers. I think Chase Young is a great player right now for him. Cam Jordan, you might have to fill his role if you don't bring him back. But linebackers, um, we've got the Cajun threesome. What was some names I saw? I've been seeing vanilla something or other. I've seen all kinds of names. It's three white linebackers. Demario gone. Do you think Pete Warner is still going to be on this team now that Demario's gone?
Sadly, yeah. Yeah, sadly, yeah. I mean, Danny Stutzman, you don't let Demario Davis walk out the door if you aren't prepared for Danny Stutzman to take a bigger role.
Yeah. Vanilla Killers. That's the one I've seen. Vanilla Killers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe Stutzman takes snaps from Warner. Maybe Stutzman gets the lead role inside, and they rotate between Ellis and Warner. I don't know. I was advocating for give Demario another 2-year deal, like he got from the Jets. Look to draft a linebacker. Look to trade Warner for a 5th or a 6th round pick. That didn't happen. Demario's gone. You brought back Ellis, which again I think is a solid move. But I think you have to run with Warner, because even if you draft a Sonny Styles in the 1st round, Warner knows your defense. He can at least be a caretaker until a rookie linebacker or a new addition. This is a new system for Ellis, remember, gets caught up to speed. So Pete Warner, Danny Stutzman, Kaden Ellis are going to be your top 3 linebackers. Even if they draft one early, that guy is going to take at least a few weeks to work into the lineup because of knowledge of the system.
Yeah, that's my fear too. So, just for shits and giggles, let's say that they draft CJ Allen from Georgia, which is a really good linebacker, but the lack of experience in the scheme, I think, would be exposed, because Warner would be the most experienced linebacker you have in there. Stutzman was making plays and he was working his way in, but he was more or less replacing Warner. So now Stutzman may be asked to replace Demario's position, and you're playing him a lot more on the weak side. So that's kind of my issue here. You almost need a veteran linebacker somewhere, and I don't know what linebackers are still available. I have my heart kind of set on Quay Walker from the Packers, and he ended up going off. I think he went to the Raiders or something like that.
Yeah, the Raiders got Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean, and those are the. I wanted one of those guys if they lost Demario, and the Raiders got both. The guys that are left are pretty much the type of player that you just re-signed in Kaden Elliss, Jermaine Pratt, Leo Chanel, Christian Roseboom. I like all 3, but again, you just brought back Ellis. You have Stutzman. You have Warner. Those are all very similar type of players. Now, one interesting one, since the Denver Broncos re-signed Alex Singleton, they released Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, that's somebody whose name I saw pop up.
I have always loved Greenlaw. Now, the major concern with him is injuries, especially over recent years. It's almost like you'd be getting a Quan Alexander, who was great with Demario Davis, undoubtedly the best compliment at linebacker the Saints have had with Davis since Demario came, when Quan was healthy. So I think you're talking about the same kind of situation if you roll the dice and get a Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, Greenlaw, you probably would have to have on a snap count kind of thing.
Yeah.
And definitely don't have him playing special teams. I don't think Sewell's still on the team anymore, Brian.
No.
I really don't remember. You've got Stallbird, who they were using a lot as a used Sewell.
I'm a big fan of Stallbird. I don't know if he's ready for a lot of snaps.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I love the way they used him. That kid is like a heat-seeking missile when he's on the field.
Yeah, and they used him more on blitzes than they used anybody else.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the linebackers right now. There was somebody else I saw out there that was pretty good. Let's just see. Did Tremaine Edwards get signed?
He did.
Okay.
Hang tight.
Yeah, this thing is not up to date.
I got papers flying everywhere from the frenzy yesterday.
I'm looking on
Giants
Facebook.
got Tremaine Edwards.
Okay. Yeah, Matt Milano's still out there.
But again,
yeah, it's another injury-prone guy. Oh, we could bring back. No, he signed with the Bucks. Alex Anzalone.
And I had Anzalone and Ellis both right there. Right beneath where I had my preference rankings. I had the asterisks. If you lose Demario Davis, 1 Quay Walker, 2 Nakobe Dean, 3 A and 3B were Ellis and Anzalone. But like you said, Anzalone landed with the Bucks.
Yeah. And here's a name from the past. I used to argue with people about when he was coming out of the draft. I can't believe he's 33 now. Denzel Perryman.
Perryman has played in Brandon Staley's system too, more than a few years. So I wouldn't be against that if it were close to a vet minimum. The type of guy that maybe you do bring in a Denzel Perryman, you draft somebody and you dangle Werner for whatever you can get.
See if Alonte David has the fountain of youth that Demario had when he came here. I mean, he's 36, but Alonte David would be a fun player.
Yeah.
When we play Tampa and we play Atlanta and Carolina, he would be fun to have on the team.
He would. And Bobby Wagner, I think, is available. But my argument is if you're going to bring in a Levante David or a Bobby Wagner, then why the hell didn't you keep Demario Davis?
Yeah, and I get that. And I think the only reason why you would bring anybody like that in here is you're bringing them in because they're cheap. And Demario wasn't cheap. But yeah, I mean, the other names out there, you're looking at guys in their 30s. Jamal Adams, Devin White. He's 28. I thought he was older than that.
It's because he plays like he's 48.
Yeah. Willie Gay, we already had that experience.
Right.
It's tough because you can get a guy like a Jack Gibbons, but that's not much better than what you got with Pete Werner. He's a 2-down linebacker. I can't believe Shaq Thompson is 32 years old. Seems
I know.
Like, the years just go by so damn fast. Dre Greenlaw is probably the biggest name that's still out there. That's under 30. And it's the injuries. You have to watch for the injuries. Everybody else is all injury prone. Boy, it's weird because here we go. This is we talked about Devin Lloyd off air, and I thought Devin Lloyd was going to be a guy who was probably the highest rated linebacker available. And you're like, yeah, but he's kind of like Stephon Anthony. He just runs his ass off and doesn't make plays. Again, here's just the thumbnail scouting report. Devin Lloyd was one of the best linebackers in the NFL last year, thriving both in run support and coverage. And it's just weird how some people just write that,
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, he had well over 100 tackles, has for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
but he makes a lot of tackles 5 and 10 yards down the field.
That's the kid.
The junior Seau effect, I call it.
Yeah, I mean that's my thing always with linebackers. I'm never impressed with tackles because I'm like, how many of them for losses? How
Hmm.
many tackles are for losses? So I don't know where where you would go from here. If you're looking for a blitzing linebacker, I guess is what the only thing you're going to do. The guys you'd have to find somebody who can just rush inside. Everybody's two down linebacker, two
Yep.
down linebacker.
I think that they feel that they have their stopgap solution,
Mm-hmm.
at least a stopgap solution in Kaden Elliss. We saw the way that they used Stallbird last year, so they know that they have that as a fallback, and they're prepared to give bigger snaps to Greenlaw. I do feel like, and I actually love. About a half dozen off-ball linebackers in this draft.
Me too.
I wouldn't be mad at a Sonny Styles at 8, but if you give me, you say hypothetically you trade down in the first round, or CJ Allen falls to the second round, great. Maybe a Kyle Lewis or from Pitt, Jeremiah Trotter, Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. Love all those guys too.
You know, yeah, I said the same thing, Al. I said I can't believe Shaq is 32. It doesn't feel like he's that old. Um, yeah, I'm just looking at linebackers in general, just all the linebackers out there, and you're going to have to go with the draft on this, and hopefully your coaching is good enough that these guys can be instinctive enough they can pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So Calvin asked earlier about the Georgia linebacker I brought up. He is kind of short, CJ. He is kind of short. He's 6'1". So he's less than your ideal height if this was Dennis Allen's defense.
Right.
But I feel like they don't care about that so much in this new scheme. And yeah, Brian, I do worry about Sonny Styles being, a guy that's all what is the word I'm looking for? All combine, athlete, not a great football player, but what I've seen of the film on him, he's also a good football player.
I agree.
He's not. He doesn't look lost in coverage. He doesn't hesitate. It looks like he reads the play well, shoots the gap. If the play goes the opposite side of him, he has great sideline to sideline speed when he runs down plays. So I kind of like that so far. Well, Don, we kind of brought this up at the very beginning of the show, but who do you like best in free agency the Saints have picked up? I mean, we didn't even really talk about him, but I think Edwards, the guard from Buffalo, is probably the best because that was probably the biggest need.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. Edwards. Edwards is my favorite signing because of the position that he's going to fill. Because I mean, both guard spots were just abysmal. Doesn't even begin to describe it.
Yeah. I mean, I still want another one.
Same. Whether it's the draft or free agency, and people have countered with you can't really cut Ruiz without taking a gigantic salary, dead cap hit, which is true. But I counter with, okay, that doesn't mean I can't sit Ruiz's ass on the bench and play him only in an emergency or as an injury fill in.
I already said my solution for this is because they did restructure Erik MCoy's contract, sign a guard, and move Ruiz to backup center guard. Because if McCoy gets hurt again, that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm going to try and use him as a center. I mean, the guards, I'm just looking to see who got signed. almost all the big names have popped off the board. Wyatt
Yeah.
Teller from the Browns is still out there. The other guard, Tevin Jenkins, got picked up. If you want an old guy, Kelvin Zelter is still out there. I don't know how well he moves. If you want to take a shot at another injury guy, James Daniels. He only played 4 games in 2004 because of an Achilles tear, and then he only played just 1 game in 2025 because he tore a pec. You know, I mean, there's no rush to go sign a second guard right now. They got a lot of guards out there. I mean, the very fact that the Chargers re-signed Trevor Penning tells you that people kind of view this class as not particularly impressive.
Yeah.
Mekhi Becton is still out there, and he was great for the Eagles, but he didn't do well with the Chargers. He looked more like the guy that was playing for the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just don't see a lot of great guards left. You took the best guard off the board.
Right.
Edwards.
And the second best guard, Zion Johnson went shortly after that.
Yeah.
Vera Tucker was signed today. Sean Ryan, a guy that you liked really liked coming into free agency. Mm-hmm. He actually got officially signed. At least the news releases came out on him. The Packers didn't even let him hit the open market. They re-signed him.
Yeah.
I mean, after that, there was obviously a big drop off, and other NFL teams felt it. All the more reason to applaud the Saints for. This is the position that you needed to fill. This is the guy that you wanted to fill it, and you didn't waste any time in doing so.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, a guy like James Daniels from the Dolphins is going to be there. He'll be there by draft time. He might even be there after the draft, depending on how it's going. Vera Tucker got signed. He did get signed. That was a guy I thought maybe the Saints had a shot at as a second guard. And he got signed. In fact, he got signed
a couple hours ago.
I think. Yeah, today. Where is he? I just saw him. Who did he go to?
Patriots.
Patriots, yes. Yeah. Which figures.
Yeah.
It's you see the guy every week. I mean, Dylan Parham.
Yeah.
He's from the Raiders. He's 27.
I wouldn't be angry at that. At least bring him in if it's cheap and let him compete with Ruiz and push each other.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, that's not a position where you're going, okay, let me go kill 2 birds, with a couple stones. I can wait on that. So, at worst, you're a left-handed. You're left-handed team. You're running behind Edwards and Banks now. So that's a good thing. I mean, so let me ask this then, because I got a lot of people bringing up, because it's coming up fast and furious right now. The Travis Etienne, I was ambivalent on him. How do you feel about him?
I would have, free agency wise, I would have rather had Kenneth Walker.
Oh yeah,
I think that goes without saying. I would have also taken it if I was guaranteed that Jeremiah Love was going to be there. And here's the thing, folks. That's the other that's the other factor to consider. If you stay at number 8, if you're the Saints and you want Jeremiah Love, there's no guarantee he's going to be there at 8. So again, that's what made this signing so crucial. However, if you could guarantee me that Jeremiah Love is there at 8, I take Love over Etienne. I would have taken Love over Kenneth Walker, and here's why. Even though Walker's only 25 and Etienne's only 27, and a guy like Jeremiah Love, you're getting a rookie. So there's no NFL tread on that tires. You're getting a rookie on a rookie contract. Really key. Yeah, I know there's no guarantee that a rookie draft choice is going to be any kind of star. No guarantee he won't be a bust. I get that. But you can't argue with Etienne's production. He's a very good receiver out of the backfield. A lot of people have said all they did was sign a younger version of Alvin Kamara. No. No. For one thing, Etienne does not have Kamara's vision. Very few backs in the NFL do. He's not as good a receiver as Alvin, but Etienne is probably a better runner in a zone blocking scheme. He doesn't have much hesitation in hitting the hole. He knows his assignment. He gets there. In other words, he's the type of runner that performs well in the type of scheme that Kellen Moore wants to run, wants to employ for his rushing attack. So in a perfect world, I'd taken Jeremiah Love, but I get the signing of Travis Etienne. If you're going to force me to put a grade on it, as my boss at the Saints Wire is doing for an article tomorrow, I'm going to grade it as in the B and B plus range. Because, again, Etienne, he's been a productive back. He's versatile. He fills a need, and he's the type of player that has performed well in this type of scheme. So, again, just like we said before, folks, you could be one of those armchair GMs or wannabe experts that's saying, oh, Love would have been better and Walker would have been better. Okay. And I don't disagree with either one of them. But you aren't the coach. The coach liked Travis Etienne, and that's why he's a New Orleans Saint.
And my thing with Etienne is I'm a little concerned about the injury history, but I do look at the Saints as a running back by committee team right now. So if you're limiting his touches, you're not making him a bell cow back. I don't know if he's good enough to run inside, but at the same time, I don't, because the Saints like to run that damn inside zone, So my thing is, did we sign a guy that's really going to be? That's why I'm ambivalent on him. Kenneth Walker, I had no concern about running the inside zone plays. That's what he was built for. That's why I think running back in the draft is still extremely likely, because I think their attitude is we can't have too many good running backs. I want pass catching backs as well as backs that can run the inside zone plays that I like to run. So I think, if your question, Anna, do I think running games in progress? Yes, I do. Tyler Algier, I don't know if Tyler Algier is much better. He's a better inside runner, I think, than Etienne, but I don't think we have the whole picture yet. I think there's another guy coming. Devin Neal is an inside runner. Estime is an inside runner. I think there's one more back coming via the draft that we're going to throw into the mix, and we're going to see where this all shakes out.
I know everybody loves Mike Washington from Arkansas, and he put on a show at the Combine. I keep telling people, and this is a pair. I love both of this pair, as you know, Alan, for the last several years. Penn State's pair of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. I'd take either one of them, in this offense. Katron, a little bit more physical of an inside runner. You want an outside zone guy, that's Nick Singleton. Both of those guys are going to be late day 2 picks. Washington, probably a mid to late day 2 pick too. So I completely agree with you. Running back has always been on my draft board, and I've said, okay, if they sign a Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, then Love is probably out of the picture in round 1. But these other guys that I mentioned, they ain't out of the picture in day 2.
We have a new person here, a Kathy. So we have, along with Anna, we have another woman coming in to ask questions. I love it. Because this has been a testosterone-filled life. So yes, this is one case where I do want a woman in the men's locker room here. Kathy, your question here: what does drafting Love now mean for Kamara? Now we haven't drafted him yet, but let's say the signing of Etienne. There's been some rumors that Kansas City's asking about Alvin Kamara and that kind of stuff. I just like with Demario and Cam, I think there's a change in the guard going on in the Saints locker room. That doesn't mean that Alvin Kamara's out the door this year.
No.
But I think they want to bring Kamara back. They restructured his deal, but I don't think Kamara is going to be the feature back anymore. I think it's much more running back by committee. And if they draft a Love, I don't think it really affects Kamara. I think
for 2026.
Yeah. I think if they do that, then the battle becomes between Travis Etienne and Kamara for touches. I think Love will be the bell cow back. And I think you'll see Kamara and Etienne competing more for touches. Not that Etienne is the player that Kamara is, but I just think how they'll use those guys. I think that's where it becomes interesting. So I don't know I can't say Kendre Miller can get traded, because if you would have asked me yesterday if I could get a sixth round pick for Kai Kroeger in 2028, I would have told you you're out of your mind.
Right.
And we got it. So the same with Trevor Penning. So I mean, I don't know if Kendre Miller could get traded.
Right. I mean, and potential is the scariest word in the world, because you cannot deny.
Traded.
What's that?
Calvin. I saw a rumor about Seattle trading with Kamara and New England for Olave. Olave is not getting traded.
Olave is not getting traded. I will and have acknowledged in recent weeks that it's a slim possibility that Alvin Kamara gets moved this offseason. I don't think it'll happen. But in years past, when all the idiotic national talking heads that literally show zero effort in learning anything about the New Orleans Saints, every year you would hear, well, Alvin Kamara is on the trade block. No, Alvin Kamara has never been on the trade block, ever. But I do think that the Saints would at least field calls. And if someone says, I'll give you a second round pick for Alvin Kamara, maybe. Again, I don't think it happens. But you're really onto something with your changing of the guard. Etienne, as the roster is constructed now, Etienne is going to be the featured back.
Mm-hmm.
They like Devin Neal. And we believe, anyway, that they're still going to at least entertain drafting a running back. Yeah. So Kamara is being phased out, as most 31-year-old running backs are. And I think that that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Neal's shown that he can pick up the pass blocking better than Kamara has. I think Kamara is going to be kind of like that receiver that, receiving back that we've been asking for a long time. Kind of lining up more as that split back, go into motion, line up in the slot kind of guy, to give him the underneath throw. Last thing before we kind of wrap up, we talked about the secondary. You said what you think of the secondary, that corner's not as big of a need as some people may make it out to be, but you kind of do have to replace Alonte Taylor.
You do.
At least protect yourself in case that guy, in case Kool-Aid or Quincy Riley get hurt. Because I really don't want to see Isaac get him out there ever again.
No.
Fine with him on special teams. Here's a name for me. I think it's in the draft. I don't think they sign a cornerback. If
Agreed.
They sign a cornerback in free agency, it's going to be one of those, who the hell's that? Did he ever play for us? I think he did. That kind of thing. It won't be a big name guy, but the guy from Arizona, Traden Stukes. He is a slot nickel cornerback. I don't know how accurate this is. 4.3 speed. He's what, 6'1", I think he is. Let me see his stats. 6'1", yeah. 6'1", pretty good leaping ability. He's just basically he's a slot corner, you know. He's your inside slot corner. I can see somebody like that, you know, day 3, 4th round pick. You've got an extra 4th round pick now because of the compensatory thing. That's where somebody, you'll see a cornerback, if they draft somebody, go in there. Yeah, we're gonna get more. Yeah, I figure if I threw that name out there, somebody was gonna love him. Hey, is that Andres from New Orleans? From Saints Report? Man, that's awesome if it is. That's back in the old days, you know. When I first got online talking about Saint stuff, that was saintreport.com. I used to, and in fact, I did the hangouts there when we'd all meet before game. Yep, good deal. That's great to see you, man. That is great to see you. The receiver room, that's more of another discussion. When we get into the draft, I think there is a draft. They're drafting a guy. I mean,
yes.
It's Bell. It could be Tate. It could be my boy from Indiana. It could be a bunch of them. Okay. I think when we get to that point in the draft, we're taking one, and it's going to be high. Yep. It's going to be day 2, early day 3. I'm not early day 3, day 2, either 2nd or 3rd round. But
I agree with that. If they sign a wide receiver or 2, it's going to be a depth piece. Which is why I don't pay a lot of attention to the Juwan Jennings rumors. I think if that was going to happen, it would have happened probably today. Yeah. So you'll see, look for like a Greg Dortch who can return kicks, a Jalen Tolbert who has played for Kellen Moore, a Josh Reynolds, a guy like that, a 4th, 5th receiver kind of guy that's going to push a Mason Tipton or a Trey Palmer for a job, but not your top 3 are going to be set with Olave, Vele, and a draft pick.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Polk.
And I think the draft pick is somebody they're going to get to play the X, some physical possession receiver.
Yeah.
But the very last thing before I ask you about Bayou Blitz, when do you think a Chris Olave extension would come through?
I don't, and I know there are some people starting to get impatient for it, and there's no reason for it to get impatient.
There isn't.
Because I mean, technically you could go right up until the day before free agency next year, because Olave is under contract. But I have a feeling the Saints will get it done. That's the kind of news that you hear 2-3 days before the start of training camp, 2-3 days into training camp. That's when I sort of expect it to happen. Would not surprise me if it happened, in the weeks following the draft. That's kind of the sweet spot for deals like that. A month or 2 after the draft, or a week or so before training camp.
Yeah, and I agree with you totally, Bob. I think they draft a receiver. If they sign a guy, it'll be somebody to compete with the bottom half of that receiving room. It's not somebody they can bring it in to start, just because the draft is just too good for receivers.
And free agent receivers are notoriously overpaid. So, I mean, strike
absolutely.
1, strike 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, so you have a Bayou Blitz coming up tomorrow night?
Yes. Brendan hasn't told me otherwise, so we're planning on it. I think Brandon does want to talk a little bit more about wide receivers. That seems to be his favorite topic of late. We'll talk more about how the free agency approach has affected the draft, for better or for worse. Brendan likes to question me about grades, so I'm sure he'll hit me with that. And like you said earlier in the show, the big splashy names might be gone for the Saints, but the Saints are not done making moves yet either.
No, I agree. I think we're looking at back to the old way. They've gotten the guys they wanted to grab out of the pile first. Now it's going to be bargain shopping to an extent. Guys that probably fill needs that they have coming up. So I'm trying to grab all these things as I come. When is the scouting report coming out? When do your articles start hitting?
I'll do my scouting report on the free agent additions tomorrow. I've been working on them through the day. If you're asking about draft picks, I usually wait until I'll put. In past years, I would have put out a couple already. I'm a little behind on that, but usually after the first wave of free agency is done. Because what I typically like to do is do my draft scouting on more focused on positions of need for the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you're not going to get any quarterback scouting reports from me this year. I didn't do anything on offensive line because I didn't think they'd draft a tackle, and I figured they'd do guard and free agency. So I wanted to wait till the first wave of free agency, till my draft reports started coming out. But yep, they're coming.
Yeah, Ryan, that's we've talked about this before, but I think Olave is more productive than Jameson Williamson. Honestly, I have my issues with Olave, but I think he's more productive than Jameson Williamson.
I think he does more as a receiver.
Yeah, and I think now that we have seen him with Tyler Shuck, it's like we're seeing more of what we thought we were going to see with Olave versus when he had guys like Derek Carr throwing to him and Taysom Hill and those kind of guys. You're seeing much more. At least what I saw, the plays they were calling, I saw a lot of plays that Olave really excelled in, and he became a legitimate weapon. It looks like he's kind of over the concussions. That was my big fear. So he's going to get paid. Yeah, I know. Knock on wood. Man, we had up to 23 people in this room.
Awesome.
Asking. Of course, it's the draft. It's free agency. Everybody wants to talk about it's like Christmas. Everybody wants to talk about. We got a Sears wish book out. We're turning the pages. Man, I want this, I want that, a G.I. Joe aircraft carrier, that kind of thing. I really appreciate so many people popping in here and so many people, different people asking us questions. Check with us again, next Tuesday night. We will start talking about the draft in earnest because the first wave of free agency, believe it or not, is over already, even though tomorrow is the first day of free agency.
Right.
So we'll start getting into the draft. Poor Bob's fading fast. I've really kept him on way too long. But thank you guys for sticking with us and being part of this show. Check out the Bayou Blitz tomorrow night. Same back time, same back channel.
Yes, sir.
And then catch us next week. And hopefully we have more Saints news, more Saints players signed. Until next time, thank y'all and good night, everybody.